All right, for your warm-up question today, I would like you to, without looking at your notes, think about what you call a cumulative frequency diagram. So there's a simple word for this cumulative frequency diagram. What is it called? Okay, the answer for this is something called an ogive, with ogive. Today we're going to be moving on to section 2, and we're going to be talking about bar graphs and Pareto charts or Pareto charts. So very similar to histograms, which we talked about in the last section, bar graphs and Pareto charts, except for a couple of differences, very small. First thing I'm going to do is just run through the properties that a bar graph would have. You don't need to necessarily memorize these, but in general, just know what these are. First of all, to note is that if you remember histograms, we could only plot quantitative data, right, numbers. Bar graphs can be used to display both quantitative and or qualitative. So we can display both types of data. So whether it be categorical or numerical. For a bar graph, we can either do our bars horizontally or vertically. So vertically, typically how you might be used to seeing them, something like this, but we could have a chart that goes this way as well. The vertical or horizontal bars. The bars, like in histograms, they must be equal width. They also must have an even space in between them. So you cannot have, a bar like this, and then, a little one like this. That does not work. And then have one that's, right next to it. That just looks sloppy. And it also distorts our data. Because if we have a bar like this, let's say like this, and then we have another one maybe that's taller, that's skinny, it still looks like this one has more, right? Because it's the super wide bar. However, this one, since it's taller, would actually be the bigger bar. So it's really important that always our bars are evenly spaced out and also even in width so it doesn't distort our data. The lengths of the bars can represent a few different things. They could either be just a value. Let's say you have doing like heights and this one's 22 and this one's 30, whatever. So it could be a value. It could be a frequency. So the number of times something occurs, just like we did in histogram. Or it even could be a percentage. Maybe out of this graph you have, out of 100%, this one is 20%, this one's 30%, so on and so forth. So it really could be for a wide range of uses. And always make sure a graph has titles, so it should have a title at the top. Each axis, the x and the y axis, should also have a title, and we should have some sort of a scale, whether it be numerical or percentages or a frequency. Make sure we are labeling our axes with a scale. All right, here's some examples. This is a bar graph. Notice the bars are spaced out, whereas a histogram, remember, they had to all be touching. And also notice that this is a qualitative data, right? Comedy, action, romance, these are categories, so it's qualitative, not quantitative. And then over here we have a frequency on this axis, right? The number of people will be the frequency. This is the type of movie. So there actually should be a title here. Maybe got cut off. Another example, average temperature. This is actually a double bar graph, which we could use as well. It's comparing 1950s and 2000s average temperature. So it looks like 2000 temperature in the spring was warmer, summer was warmer, fall was actually cooler, and winter was the same. So it's just comparing two. So you could see a graph like this, double bar graph. Here is a horizontal bar graph. As you can see there. And there's another double bar graph there. Bar graphs are really useful in making comparisons, whether it be years or genders. As we see in this case, males and females. So they're a very useful tool as well. All right, now there is a special type of bar graph we're going to talk about, and that's called a Pareto chart. If you look on the internet, you might see some different definitions for Pareto charts, and they do have maybe some different qualities. The one thing that I want you to know about Pareto charts is that the bars are arranged from highest to lowest. That's the key thing. The bars are arranged from highest to lowest. So it is a bar graph, right? And the only thing that we're going to really say is different is that the bars are arranged from the highest bar to the lowest bar. So here's an example. When we made this bar graph, we made sure to put the tallest one first and then just write them in descending order. Highest one first, down to the lowest one. And this is just nice because then it's easier to compare the different categories. Here's another example as well, horizontal example. Again, just starting with the highest, working our way down to the lowest. All right, I'm going to just do a couple examples. And today, rather than using our calculators, we're actually going to be using Google Sheets. You could also use Excel if you want to as well. But I'm going to do 2 examples and basically just illustrate to you some different ways you can create these charts using Google Sheets. And that is going to be how I want you to turn in your assignments, is on Google Sheets. So this is an example I took from the book. This is the causes of lateness at a particular college. So why college students were late in the months of September to October. All right, so first reason, snoozing when the alarm went off, that happened 15 times. Car trouble accounted for 5 of the tardies. 13, too long, eating breakfast, made you late. 20, last minute studying. So maybe they were late for a test because they were trying to get some last minute studying in. Couldn't find something to wear. They didn't do their laundry. Talking too long with a roommate. Showed up late, or another reason. All right, so taking this data, we are going to look at a Google Sheets, and we're going to create a bar graph, and then I'll also show you how to create a Pareto chart using that as well. I'm going to flip over there. So again, this is going to be how I want you to do your assignments for this. I have just a Google Sheet pulled up here, and I can't change my tab. Hang on a second. All right, so here's the sheet. What I did is I just took that table out of the book and I just wrote out the cause and frequency at the top, nothing fancy. And then I just typed in, I just abbreviated these: snoozing, car trouble, breakfast, studying, wardrobe, talking, other. So I just abbreviated these categories. And then I put the frequency in the column next to it. So very simple, doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you wanted to capitalize these or whatever, you can. But I just went ahead and typed those in. So again, this is in Google Sheets. So if you're trying to do this, you're just going to go to your Google account, and there should be right here, just Google Apps, and just click on your Sheets there or whatever. All right. So after I've typed those in, I'm going to show you how to make a simple bar graph with this. All we're going to do is just click and highlight. So I'm going to highlight both columns and the titles. So I've got it all highlighted, and then I'm going to go to Insert, and then down here at Chart, and you can see it's actually a little bar graph there. Click on Chart, and now the default one it gave me is actually a pie chart, but I want to go over to Chart Type and change this, and I'm just going to click on this one. You can see it says a column chart, but it's a bar graph, and you can see, voila, look how simple that was. I got a bar graph out of that. And I might want to edit it a little bit or something, but here's my bar graph. I've got the frequency on the vertical one there, and then the cause on the horizontal one. And you can see everything's pretty good. Look, it even gave me titles because I put the titles in these columns, so I went ahead and assumed the title was there. The only thing I might want to change is this top. You can see this is supposed to be the title for the top. I'm just going to double click there. And I might just put causes for lateness or something like that. Whatever you want to title it. And you could even center this down here. Format, center it, causes for lateness. If you want to make any of these bold, you can do all kinds of things to customize this. If you want to put in some more, you want to change the font size or the font, you can do that. Do whatever you want to do. You can make all kinds of changes to these. You don't have to. If you want to add more grid lines or ticks into this thing, you can just click on that one and do that as well. Take off those grid lines, put in the minor grid lines, whatever you want to do. You can change the colors of these as well. So mess around with that. Change the background color, you can change the border color, whatever you want to do. But it's very simple to make. This satisfies all the conditions. I've got my axes labeled. I've got even bars, even width, so we don't have to worry about doing all that. It's done. Boom. All right, now what I do want to show you is how you could also make a Pareto chart out of this, because they're not all in order, right? One thing that you could do would just be to reorder these on your own, just retype them out, put the studying first and the using second or whatever. There is another little trick I'll show you, and this works for Excel if you're using Excel as well. Everything's very similar. You guys are smart too, so I know you can figure this stuff out. But I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to highlight everything except for the titles. I'm not going to highlight the titles. And then if I click on data, you can actually sort this. I'm going to sort column B because that's where my frequency is. Make sure you're highlighting both of them, but I'm going to sort column B, and I'm going to say Z to A. And what that's going to do is that's going to sort it from highest down to lowest. And you can see there I got actually a Pareto chart there because all I had to do is just change that one setting, and boom, I fixed it. All right, so again, what I did is I just went through and highlighted both columns. Again, do not highlight the titles, and then click on data. And then you can sort it by either column. If I wanted to do an alphabetical order, so then I would do column A, but I want to sort it by column B because I want to do it by the numbers. If I did A to Z, then it's going to do lowest to highest. But you can mess around with that. Again, all I did was do highlight them, and I just clicked data. And you're just going to sort it by whatever column you want to sort it by. I wanted to sort it by column B because that's my frequency. All right, so that easy automatically changes to a Pareto chart. Again, when you actually create your chart, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this just to show you. To create your chart, all you're going to do is highlight both columns and the titles. You're just going to insert and click on chart. Let's say you also wanted to maybe do a horizontal one instead. Let's click on the horizontal one, and there you go. That's it. That's all there is to it. And then again, you might want to change the title. If you want to change the colors, you can do that as well. Yeah, some cool things you can do. You can switch the rows and columns if you wanted to. Don't really advise that for this one, but you can see what happens there. All right, so that's our first one. I want to show you another example as well. For our next example, actually, we're going to use a little bit more relevant data. So I went to the Ohio Department, I guess it was ohio.gov or whatever, and got the COVID data that I used before. And specifically this time, I looked at the number of cases per school. So these are the top, I believe it's the top 10 schools for COVID, how many cases they have. So you can see here, these are the schools. Olentangy has the most so far. Southwestern City, Delaware Christian, Mason City, Dublin City. Those are the top 10 for number of COVID cases per school district. So I'm going to create a bar graph out of this, also a Pareto chart, and I'm going to show you a couple different ways we can do that. Now I have three pieces of data here. I have county, and I have the school, and I have the number of cases. So for my first chart, I'm not going to do it by county. I'm just going to do by school. So I'm just going to highlight those two, and actually I want to highlight the titles as well. And then I'm just going to do insert chart. And that one did give me a bar graph to start there. This is a horizontal one. That would be fine. You might want to change the title here, just COVID cases, or maybe we do top 20 schools for COVID cases in Ohio. Boom. And I want to center it. Maybe I want to make it bold as well. There we go. So that's it. I've got my axes labeled already. I've got everything there ready to go. Maybe I want to change it a little bit so it's a vertical bar chart there. That, you can do that if you want to. This one's already pretty good. If I want to make a Pareto chart, it is in the opposite order, just the way it was arranged. So what I'm going to do is highlight all three of these. It is important that you highlight all three columns, or else it won't match up the right county with the school anymore. So I'm just going to do data, and I'm going to sort by column C because that's where I have the numbers. Column C, Z to A, and boom, there we go. Got my highest one first down to my lowest one. All right, one other thing that I want to do, show you what we can do. This is all you're going to need to be able to do. But let's say I wanted to sort it by counties. Notice I do have a couple repeats here. I've got 2 in Warren County. I've got a couple in Franklin, a couple in Delaware. So instead of sorting it by school, I'm going to sort it by county. But I've got this school thing in the middle. I don't want to delete out the schools. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to highlight this column, and then keeping Control, highlight this column. Again, I'm holding down the Control button the whole time, and then clicking and dragging, still holding Control, clicking and dragging. So it's highlighting these 2 columns now, and watch. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. And I'm going to insert a new chart, and it's going to use those 2 columns. So now I've got it by county. So there we go. Now, one thing that's not so good about the one I've done so far is that notice it has like Delaware listed twice, Franklin twice. That's not really very good. I want to combine those together. So all I'm going to do is scroll down and see this word aggregate. Aggregate just means to combine the 2 together. So I'm just going to click aggregate, and there it combined them by the county. So aggregate means if it sees the same value twice, it's going to combine those together. So I combine all my Franklins, all my Delawares, Warrens, Stark Unions, so on and so forth. So you could actually do this with all of the schools if you wanted to, all the schools in Ohio, and then aggregate them by county, and you would see a nice breakdown by the most in each county. So it looks like Delaware has the most, and then Franklin, so on and so forth. And if you wanted this graph to be, maybe a little bit better so you could see the exact number, there's all kinds of ways you could do that. You could, let's see, put in the grid lines and the ticks, put in more of those so you can see a little bit better. Minor ticks, major ticks, grid lines, all that stuff. And you can, a lot of things you can customize about this. You don't have to, but just make sure you got everything that's required, and then you can be as neat, tidy. You can change the colors of these bars if you want to. Just click on them and then change the color. Do you want pink bars? There you go. You want to change the the outline, you can do that as well. So, all right, that's it. It's a pretty simple process. Again, reach out to me though if you are struggling with this in any way, but just play around with it when you're asked to do these, and you will turn in some of these graphs. All right, see you later.